everybody, hope you're well. And right now I am with Nick, aka Death of Shapes. How are you, Nick?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm super fine. Glad you're here today to share your experience and journey with people.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. So maybe before starting, let me display a few of your videos. I'm currently on your Instagram, so people, if you want to follow Death of Shapes, be sure to subscribe to his account, check out all the amazing content he is doing, and let's take a look at his animation reel, which looks super exciting. So I'm sorry, Nick, no sound, but I will ask you a few questions while we are watching your reel. So, can you let us a bit know more about you?
Yeah. I'm a 3D artist animator right now, currently with Bungie in Seattle. Uh, I've kind of had a long path getting there currently, so I'm working in video games right now. But my path has kind of been um, I've done games and film, commercial work. Been a pretty creative person all my childhood. I've got a identical twin brother who's also an animation artist, currently working in visual effects for film up in Vancouver. So yeah, I don't know how specific to get or how broad to get, but I'm originally from Georgia in the United States, so the South. I grew up on a farm around a lot of animals and horses and pigs and donkeys and turkeys and chickens. And I grew up there with my family. I've got an amazing mother who's a wonderful artist herself. She does a lot of painting and clay work, sculpture, and then my father's a musician. So I grew up in a pretty creative household.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So, from how many years are you animating? Because I can see in your reel that this is pretty high level content.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. I would say about 15, 16 years, I guess, I would say. Um, Definitely got very lucky in the beginning because I landed at Blur Studio in Los Angeles. I'm sure you know they do a lot of cinematic work and commercials.
Yeah.
The owner Tim Miller directed Deadpool, and they're going off and working on more feature film stuff now. They're the ones responsible for Love, Death, Robots on Netflix.
Mhm.
So they're starting season two, I think. But I got really lucky and landed there with my brother. So my twin and I were there for like 7 or 8 years together. And being at a company like Blur pretty early on is amazing because you get to touch like 12 different projects every year. Like one year I worked on Halo, Star Wars, Goldfish Cracker commercials, BioShock. It was crazy. So it's very fortunate in that respect because you at a place like Blur, it's high turnover rate because you're a client worker, so you're doing work for clients. So you get to touch all kinds of different styles in one year. So I was really lucky. I got to grow pretty rapidly, and I definitely credit Blur for the amount the body of work I'm able to show is a testament to how much great stuff they're able to do.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm currently watching your African wildlife video, and the style is really different. So, could you let people know more about the process, the tools that you're using, and what's your favorite things?
Yeah. That's interesting because the African wildlife thing is obviously all 2D, so that's all 2D animation. And I was using After Effects to create cards to create perspective. So you can create a 3D camera in After Effects,
Hmm.
and you can push it in to get parallax and stuff like that. Um, I really love the 2D avenue of work because it saves me from having to do 3D work at home. Like all I do is 3D at work, right? That's all I'm doing. I'm like staring at Maya, looking at 3D rigs and dealing with the game engine and stuff. So when I get home, I prefer to just work with 2D stuff, Photoshop, After Effects, and that's it. Because it's just really refreshing to just forget about rigs and models, forget about penetrations and rig issues. It just gets really convoluted really quickly. I love the simplicity of 2D. As far as you can do anything in 2D. It's not simple, it's very difficult, but I really like the simplicity of the workflow a lot.
That's pretty awesome that you say that, because I have some 2D animator friends that works as motion designers, and when they are home, they work on 3D. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
fun.
yeah. I think a lot of people like to be well-rounded. I think if you can somehow do things in 2D and you're also um, a competent 3D art, like if and you're a competent 3D artist, if you can marry the two, your 2D skills with Maya or Softimage or Blender, it makes you kind of a bit of a powerhouse because you have a really good understanding of keeping things on model. I think a little bit more than most, so it's really helpful.
Yeah, pretty cool. We are actually watching your motion design tutorial, and that's pretty cool to see how versatile you are.
Oh yeah, thanks. That's I need to update. I got really obsessed about doing 2D like for like 6 months, and we were a little slow at work, and I was just like doing my day job, and then I would run home and work on these black and white pieces because I just wanted to do everything in black and white. And then it was a good exercise, but I wish I would have slowed down and spent a little bit more time making the pieces a little bit more complex. But it was good. It was good practice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we can thank the community for being active on Instagram and asking some question. So I will just after finishing to watch your Batman video ask you some question that we had over Instagram, so you can let us know a bit more about your personal taste, your tools, and how you overcome some difficulties.
Cool. Sounds
So,
good.
so let me go on Instagram, and thanks for all the people who asked question. So first question is from Luis Lobo, and Luis asked, "Do you have any advice for someone who wants to start?"
Yeah, I would say, so you mean like start animation, just start animating in general?
I guess it's about animation.
Yeah, yeah, specifically. I would say if I could go back before I had, gone to this, I'm not a fan of the college that I went to for animation. I think it was a giant waste of money. Um, so if I could, and what I always tell people is if you're going to start, like, if you're a high school student and you're asking this, I always say finish your high school degree, go to a community college, do art courses there because they're cheap. Just get a well-rounded knowledge of art, painting, drawing, and then take an animated course online, like Anim Squad, or I've got some friends that are starting up some really interesting things. Any sort of anim school stuff, like that's what I would recommend, or just grabbing rigs and playing around with the software, getting to know it, and just toying with stuff. I'm not a very firm believer in going to the 4-year art college. I think nowadays we have too many good resources online that can keep you from being $120,000 in debt, So
Yeah, I
that's what I
understand
always,
what you're
yeah.
saying. And you told us that you have some friends building their online schools. Maybe you can let us know more about their
Yeah,
project.
yeah. Well, I have a few friends that are currently teaching different schools, like Anim School, Animation Mentor, especially. I have a lot of friends that teach and also participate and actually take courses there. Um, I've got a buddy right now currently at Bungie named Mike Walling, who's starting a company called Real Monster, and it's a good company to keep an eye out for. He's specifying in real critiques. So if you're a student or you're starting animation, you can send your work to him, and he'll review it, go over tutorials, and talk about the basics and fundamentals of animation. He's got starter courses, mid-level and high-end stuff. So that's going to be a really good online course to, I think, keep an eye out for. I don't think it's fully launched yet, but Real
Okay.
Monsters should be pretty cool.
Thanks. We have
Yeah.
another question from Domin Smok, asking, "What's your inspiration?"
I am very inspired by animals because I grew up on the farm, right, in Georgia. So I'm extremely inspired by. I got a cat who's an asshole, um, but I love her. She's sweet. I love dogs, and I'm a big creature animator guy. I love animating monsters and stuff, and so my inspiration for all that stuff is looking at mostly animal reference. That's like my favorite thing ever is to just look at animal reference and really dig into the minutia of how especially quadrupeds, how they move and how that stuff works. I spend most of my days animating bipedal
Okay.
rigs, right? And so I love the chance to animate a creature or an animal. It's great. It's different.
Yeah, it's kind of refreshing. I can understand.
Yes. Yeah.
We have another question from Jackie Chan Shah, asking what helps you the most in polishing your animation?
I I've thought about this. I saw that question on Instagram and I was like, what's the best way to answer that? I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is using in Maya, you can create motion trails, trajectory trails.
Mhm.
So in 3D space, you can follow the spatial representation of a point on a rig. So you can double check and make sure things are very smooth in 3D space. That's my ultimate way of making sure that my curves are clean. And when you're animating to a camera, even if you're in your curve editor, if the tangents and the curves look smooth, you still might think things look weird. So I like creating a control, like selecting a control on a rig, especially like the head maybe. And in Maya, you can create a motion trail, like a trajectory trail. And I think it's an editable motion trail is the new term, but it'll create points in 3D space. And so to me, that's the easiest way to make sure you're not having any issues and that things are running smooth. So
Okay, it sounds like an awesome tips. Thanks for sharing it.
yeah.
So Nightmare X is asking what software do you mainly use?
Maya, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe for the people new to the industry, can you have a small word about Maya? It seems from an external point of view that this is like the standard of the industry, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say Maya is definitely the standard. I spent, like I was saying before, I was at Blur for most of my career, still currently, because I was there for almost 8 years. Um, we were using 3D Studio Max and Softimage, which is XSI,
Mhm.
which is owned by Autodesk. I don't even know if they still make it or if they're still supporting it. But I believe they're in the middle of transitioning to Maya for animation. But it's I would definitely say Maya is the standard, the industry standard for sure.
This is not a question that we had on Instagram. This is mostly a personal one. But what do you think about Blender? I noticed that they evolved quite a bit lately, and also some companies supported them. So do you think Blender could be a professional and really solid software in the industry in the next years?
I don't know enough about it, so I couldn't speak to it. I've never even opened it. I know that in the motion graphics, motion design world, Blender is like a staple. Like I went to Blend Fest in Vancouver last year with my buddy Jim, and we went for I think it's two-day thing, and it's all about these amazing motion designers and graphic artists that stand up and talk about their work. And Blender was like the number one software that they use. So that I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that it had come that far because I remember when it came out, it was like, oh Blender, like I don't know, some weird off the wall shareware stuff. Like I wasn't quite sure how serious it was, and now it seems to be a pretty big powerhouse as far as, especially with motion graphics. I haven't seen character animation, or at least seen amazing character animation where I saw that it was made in Blender. I think typically I see stuff and it's usually in Maya,
Mhm.
or Max or other packages. But yeah, I mean it's definitely impressive. I mean certainly what I see coming out of Blender is pretty impressive for sure.
Okay, thanks for your question. So you suggest
Yeah.
someone wanting to have a job quickly in the industry to focus on Maya.
if they want to animate rigs like characters and creatures and stuff, yeah, I would absolutely say learn Maya. I think that's, and Maya does an amazing job. Autodesk does an amazing job. Autodesk owns Maya, along with pretty much everything else in the world now. But they do an amazing job of offering student versions for free,
Mhm.
so it's easy to get a hold of. Like it didn't used to be that way 10 years ago, but they make it extremely easy to get a hold of it and play around. And it's pretty, you can pretty much get the entire package for free. As long as you're a student, you can render out of it, you can import rigs, and it's pretty cool. You can do a
Okay,
lot of stuff with it. Yeah.
thanks. We have a more fun question from Champa the cat asking, "How's your day?"
It's good. Good. I'm sleepy. What time is it in Paris right now?
Actually, it's 7 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, I just woke up, so I'm just like starting my day, and it's Mother's Day here, so I'm gonna go see my mom
Oh,
shortly. Yeah.
great. I think that's the same in Germany. It's Mother Day in Germany, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I
But
was curious. I was curious who else in Europe had that
but
going
not in
on.
France.
Not in France. Interesting.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Or if it is, I will be killed by my mother soon. um, so we can have some questions repeating. Patty also asked, what software do you animate? So another tips from Omar. Another question from Omar asking, do you have some tips to make a good animation? I think this kind of refers to the first question. Um, so, do you also animate your cameras and environment?
Yeah. I love animating cameras. I got my start doing layout in previs at Blur. So I don't proclaim to be the best at doing layout and previs and stuff. I look at the people that do that stuff professionally full time, and they're amazing. But what I can say is, as an animator, if you can learn how to animate a camera, then your animation will always look better. If you can learn how to mimic, like look at movies, like look at how things are edited, look at the angle, look at if it has a little bit of handheld movement on the camera, and try to mimic that to get a really like a real world feeling. But the most annoying thing is to see someone who has a great animation skill but sets the camera up in a weird way, or doesn't showcase what the animation and the motion is really doing in an honest way. So I think it shows a lot if an animator can learn how to move a camera correctly. Definitely.
Okay, really cool.
Yeah.
Another question is, what's your process for problem solving? Do you apply a specific mindset?
Um, Problem solving. That's a pretty broad question.
I
As
imagine you're stuck in your job and you don't have a satisfying result and you need to deliver. What's the process?
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, that's a good question. Um, I would say problem solving in terms of I had this happen on the last show where I had a shot that I was animating of this character flipping, and they had her flipping in layout, and I thought, oh, that was cool. I really want that shot. And then I got the shot, and then I was immediately like, shit, like how am I gonna make this work? And I was working on it, and it just wasn't. I didn't feel like it was selling, and I was really struggling with it. I think the ultimate thing that really saved me, and that was just showing that shot to like everybody. Like I think when you ask the term troubleshooting, I'm going to use this case to say, how do you troubleshoot a shot where you feel like it's failing, and how can you get it to a passable state? Um, I would say showing the work to people you trust, obviously, right? I mean, you want to feel good about the feedback you're getting because from people that you trust and have good work themselves. But I think as artists, we can tend to hold things really close to the chest and not want to show
Mm-hmm.
too many people, because you're an artist, and it's hard to accept a lot of feedback from many different people, especially if it can kind of kind of fight your original idea. But I would say showing that shot to as many people as I could got me to there was a lot of little things I wasn't noticing. And overall, I would look at it and I was like, her flip feels weird. It doesn't feel like it has any inertia. It wasn't working. And then I would get a little note from this person and a tiny little note from this person. And once you took all that feedback and put it all together, I was like, oh shit, like it actually looks better, you know? So I think the number one important part of that is trusting people you're getting the feedback from. But as long as you trust them and you like their work and they've given you good feedback, maybe it's during dailies or they often ask you for feedback. Um, I would say when you're troubleshooting, like, why doesn't this look right? Or what can I do to fix it or make it look better? I would say reaching out to your friends or your coworkers and just getting their honest opinion, you know?
Okay.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Thanks for this precious advice. And we have another question. How do you manage your dynamics, clothes and airs in particular?
Personally, for personal work that I do at home, I don't do any of that. So we just hang out. Like we did the Batman thing. I did the Batman short with my brother and my really good friends, Pat and Ryan. Really, really lucky to have a really supportive crew on that were really good at animating like a cape and stuff like that. Like they didn't have any trouble animating all that. But I would say if it's a personal project, I don't do any dynamic sims or anything. The only thing that we did do in Batman was we had a rain rig, so it was slightly raining the entire piece. So that was the only thing in Maya that we would run. So there's a free rain rig you can grab for Maya out there. It's at no cost and it's really easy to set up and you can just run it and then cache it so you bake out the raindrops. That was the only thing that obviously by hand I'm not going to animate raindrops, but when that question pertains to my day job at Bungie, cloth dynamics and stuff is all handled in the engine. So rigs are all, characters are automatically set up with those kinds of settings. So when we're animating and we're exporting and viewing work in the engine, you'll see a cape automatically moving. We do have to do fixes because oftentimes before we do shot breakouts and stuff and fix each shot, the cape will be like whirling around the first frame and then it'll settle. So there's definitely some attention to detail that needs to happen. But for the most part, all of our dynamics are run in engine at Bungie.
Okay, that's really cool. And what kind of engine? Can you tell what engine is used, or is it something that Bungie keeps secret?
Oh, it's just proprietary, so nothing to keep secret. But it's a lot of game development houses have their own engine. It's stuff with their own custom tools and things. So yeah, it's not that yeah, I mean it is a secret thing, but it's our platform for game development. So it's we don't use anything like Unreal or anything. So it's all just custom made. To Bungie started out their big game was Halo, obviously. So I believe that I wasn't there for those days, but I think Bungie's engine was in its infancy, was developing that series, and then they went off and now we're doing Destiny, and it's good to have a proprietary engine because you're building it custom for those games specifically to support. So I think oftentimes a lot of studios will do that because they're supporting very specific kinds of content.
Okay, and the last question um, is, I don't know, maybe it's from your brother, but someone asked, why is your brother so hard?
Yeah. That would be Brian. He is rad. He's a super talented dude. He's certainly the reason that I got into animation. My brother showed a very, very early interest in animation and pursuing a career in art far before I ever was taking it seriously. I originally wanted to be a veterinarian, like a veterinary technician, like I was working with animals. And I don't know, he had a lot of inspiration on my career very early on. And so we ended up going to the same college together and we created a lot of side projects together. And I think that was very formative as far as my drive. Working with my brother was the best way to create so much work very early on. And Brian is like the most prolific guy. I think you follow. I know you follow him. I know you've shared his work, and he's always posting stuff. He does a new project every fucking week. So it's like you can't stop him. He's always going.
Yeah, he is also an awesome animator, and that's so cool to share the same passion with
Yeah,
your
it's good. I
brother.
think we're really lucky. Yeah, I think we're really lucky to be able to do that stuff together and grow each other at the same time in the same industry. I think is really lucky.
That's pretty cool. Thanks again for answering all our question and the question from the community. Do you have a latest word to share with the people?
A latest work or a word?
Word. Sorry for my French accent.
A word like saying
Yep.
something or um no, just play Destiny. Play Destiny and give me money, support the game.
Number
Um
one or number two?
uh I would say especially during this time right now, oh, definitely Destiny 2 for sure. Play Destiny 2. Yeah. Yeah, but no, Destiny's like free to play online, so it's great. But I would say the most important thing, especially right now with COVID and the coronavirus being, shutting everything down, it's a really good time for art to like persevere, like use the time to create as much art as you can because everybody's kind of stuck in their houses and it's a weird time right now. So I would say spend the time wisely and um, make as much stuff as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Thanks again for your time. Thanks again for sharing all those precious tips. And people, please follow the work of Days of Shape. Why this name? Why Days of Shape?
I don't know. I did a motion graphic and I was trying to figure out what to name it. Uh, and I was and the motion graphic, it was like, if you look on the account, it's the very first animation I think I have up, of a triangle creating itself and it like dissipates, and I was like, oh, that's cool, it's got death in it and then shapes, and I like the look of the triangle with the black, and no specific reason, I just didn't want to use Nick Whitmire, it seemed really bland.
Yeah, I think
So
Days of Shapes is a nice name.
okay, not too dark.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
So thanks again for your time and see you soon.
yeah, awesome, thanks guys.
Bye.
Okay, bye, see you guys.
See you.